I'll do it.
Okay, you do it. Okay.
Olivia's going to be the table topic, and then evaluation.
I'm doing general evaluation.
And then you have the option to evaluate Lawrence's speech or not.
Okay.
All right. Do you have access to speech evaluations?
So which one? You're doing the evaluation one? I mean,
Evaluation 2,
evaluation two.
which is the speech that you get evaluated and then you reevaluate it after you've
Yes.
improved.
Yes.
But if you don't have that particular, any
Yes.
general
Evaluation.
evaluation does work.
Yeah. Evaluation, and so this is your first speech of your evaluation feedback, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the word of the day is garrulous, right?
Yeah, talkative.
Excessively talkative, especially on trivial matters.
Okay, let me. Oh, well, I better. Okay, I'll set this up.
Garrulous.
Okay, and then I'll.
Rambling, roundabout, especially about trivials, wordy or diffuse. Hope that I don't have a
Maurice, are
garrulous
you
or
all
boring
the,
speech.
are you the grammarian, the odd counter, and the timer?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I jumped in on your thing, sorry.
You want
I
to go
hope I
over
don't have
those,
a
or
garrulous and boring speech.
you want to go over those, or what do you?
Yes, so timer will time the prepared speech, and I assume this one is from 5 to 7 minutes. So
What's it say?
5 and 7.
Okay.
So at 5 minutes, the green light comes on. At 6 minutes, the warning light comes on, which is yellow or amber, and then the stop light or the red light at 7 minutes, or wrap up your speech at when the red light comes on. And then grammarian, I will check for misusage of English language. And then I also do the all counter, check for filler words, you know, so, etc. The word of the day is garrulous, which means excessively talkative. And would you like me to read this now?
No,
Okay. Oh, that's
I just was giving it to you because it was left here.
Oh.
It was left here on the table for us. Lady downstairs told me, don't forget to read this letter somebody sent, gave to you.
Haven't left it.
And Olivia, you're the general evaluator and
Yes.
table topic specialist?
And Lawrence's evaluator. So the general evaluator just pretty much takes overview of the entire meeting and provides feedback at the end, and also introduce the other evaluators and just talk about the overall flow of the meeting. For a speech evaluator, I will listen to Lawrence's speech using the method that's on Pathways and Table of Topics International. I will give him feedback or an evaluation on his speech, basically to talk about things that he did good at, what he may want to work on, and ways that he can challenge himself. And what was the one? Oh, Table Topics Master. And the Table Topics Master, I will give questions or ask for volunteers first and then give the question, and you will be invited to come up to the lectern and give a 1 to 2 minute response to that topic or to that question.
Thank you. We will have one prepared speech for tonight, and that's Lawrence. And I'd like to welcome up to give his speech.
Well, I hate to inform you, but I'm going to have a 4 to 5 minute table topic, basically what it's going to be. So does anyone perchance to have something that they would like to hear me elucidate or pontificate or something? And I'll try not to be garrulous and boring and all that. So has anybody got an idea? Going once?
Roadways.
Roadways?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, roadways. Okay. Fellow Toastmasters, I've been asked to give you a slight discussion on roadways. This is a very interesting topic to me because starting next week, I will probably be spending the next few months on the roadways across America. Now, one of the interesting things, a few months ago I did a 15,000 mile road trip. And during that road trip, I had the experience of many different roadways. Now, I drove roadways throughout various different states in the U.S., also in Canada. Frankly speaking, the Canadian roadways were better than many of the American roadways, the U.S. roadways. Canada, by the way, is part of America. So I have to stop saying America. Anyways, one of the interesting things that I found is in my travels, I try to avoid going on the interstate system. Not just because I have this RV that I'm driving that goes a little bit slower sometimes than other traffic, not because it has to go slower, but because I prefer to go slower. But the interesting thing that I found is that over the course of an entire day's driving, I lose about 1 hour of transportation time by going on back roads rather than going on the interstates. So the good thing about that is, although I've lost an hour's worth of travel, I've seen a lot more of the U.S. and Canada, a lot more of America than I would have seen if I was on the interstate. Now, I'm sure most of you have had the opportunity to drive down the interstate, where you have 2 lanes going in one direction, you got a bunch of trees on one side, you got a bunch of trees on the other side, and occasionally you see cars going in the other direction. But you get on the back roads, and you're driving, and you see these old houses out in the middle of a field. Okay, you're driving on the back roads. You see interesting things like these signs on the side of the road. You see a building. It's got a grocery store. It's got a gas station. It's got a motel. And there's a big sign with these vultures hanging over it, and the sign says, next gas station, 150 miles. But the interesting thing is, what that sign doesn't tell you is the next building you're going to see is that gas station that's 150 miles away. There is nothing between those two places. And this was one of those old roads that was built back in the 50s. It's still in very good condition because almost nobody drives on it. This was Highway 50 between Reno, Nevada and the mountains of Colorado. They say that the average is that you will see 1 car coming in the opposite direction every 17 minutes. Now, can you actually imagine driving down the interstate and not seeing another car in the other lane for 17 minutes? It's unthinkable. But the scenery was beautiful. It's also registered in the International Dark Sky Registry. So knowing that, I had to take some time on one evening to just stop, to pull over, to stop, let the sun go down, and just look up at the dark sky, which actually is a misnomer. Because when there is no background lights from the buildings and the cities around you, there are so many stars in the sky that there's barely any darkness. It's just completely filled with stars. It's one of the most amazing experiences that you'll ever have, is to get to some place where there's no background light and you can just lay back in the grass or in the desert on the sand and look up at this dark sky. Now, roadways are interesting. There's all kinds of roadways. But the roadway that you pick is going to give you that real flavor of life. Do you want to be on the interstate for your entire life? Or do you want to take those back roads that might be bumpy, that might have potholes, that have stop signs and red lights? But let me tell you, fellow Toastmasters, when you drive the back roads, that's where you really get to experience the world. Mr. Toastmaster.
Another great impromptu speech from Lauren. Now we move on to our impromptu, or not planned impromptu speeches from our table topics master. You ready?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just gonna look at that.
Read on time.
I have a question. This is one that just stood out to me. So, do you guys need the question first? And then you'll give me an answer, or should I just volunteer someone to come up? Okay, I'm gonna give you the question. Are you more like your mom or your dad? And in what way? Are you more like your mom or your dad? And in what way? Don't you all run up here all at once?
Oh, they falling his foot? Okay.
I didn't put it together. I'm not like it. Thank you. It's good. Okay, let's try again. Where or who do you turn to when you need good advice? Come on, Marie. You can do it. Where or who do you turn to when you need some good advice? You can do it.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, the question posed to me is, who do I turn to when I need good advice? And this is pretty easy. I don't have a specific person, but I know I have different people for different situations. For example, if I need relationship advice, I have someone to go to. If I need work advice, I got someone to go to there. If I need financial advice, I got someone else for that. So this is just a general answer. Don't have specific people to name, but I have different people according to the topic or the situation that I go to for good advice. Madam Topic Master.
Sorry about that, Maurice. But you're right, it's great. The most important thing is to know that you have someone to go to, because we all need someone to talk to. I think it's said that every therapist has a therapist, because we all need someone to talk to. I'm gonna toss these questions out, and I just want to ask, what was your name again? Cedric. I thought so. Cedric, how was your weekend? Come on. How was your weekend?
Toastmasters, this is my second week here. My weekend was pleasant. I didn't do much. I didn't even watch the Super Bowl. I pretty much just studied. I'm studying the data analytics and data science, so that's taking up a whole lot of my weekend. Played with my kids a little bit, my little girl security. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you very much. I'll check in.
Play board games or just,
TikTok with the app.
And what's your girl's name? You said it was security?
Security.
Say it again?
Security.
Security. I thought you said security. I was like, wow. No, but I like odd names. Okay. With that being said, Graf, has anyone ever made fun of your last name? Come on up. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm a guest, so I'm not going to do the Toastmaster thing at the beginning. The question was, has anyone ever made fun of my last name? I'm sure they have, but it's been a long time. I'm sure as a little kid they said graph paper or whatever, you know. Like, I'm sure everyone's been through it at some point. People making fun of you for, you know, no reason. So, as I said, I don't even remember the last time somebody made fun of my last name. And I'm 40 years old, so it's like, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking, because every time when you said that's 2 F's, and I'm like, yeah, I know how to spell giraffe. That's what I always think. Yeah, I'm like, yeah,
I don't mind the giraffe name though. I don't mind giraffe.
You don't mind giraffe? Yeah,
No.
nothing wrong with that. People have picked on my
So your
name.
drill instructor didn't even make fun of that? Okay.
No?
We made fun of other stuff, but
Yeah.
who can't.
I tell you what, you look also to be 40. I would have picked you to be like
Thank
maybe
you.
30, 31. You look real good for your age.
Thanks.
My last name is, well, my maiden name is Haston, but people always say Haston, or I've even had someone recently tell me, no, your name is, you pronouncing it wrong. What? I'm pronouncing my name wrong? They're like, no, it's Haston, like Gaston. Oh, okay, if you say so, but no, my father's family, they all pronounced Haston, so whatever. I'm not gonna argue about that, but recently someone just told me I was pronouncing my last name wrong. So, Mr. Lawrence, we always get to hear so many good things from you, so I'm not gonna bother you to come back up unless you just have something you wanna tell us about the Super Bowl or something.
The Super Bowl.
Oh, well, sure. Thank you.
Fellow Toastmasters, Super Bowl. What is it about the Super Bowl? There's a group of young men, many big as gorillas, that are competing against a bunch of other big men, maybe as big as gorillas, and they're all fighting over a little pigskin balloon. What is it about the Super Bowl? Somehow, this incites a lot of excitement in many people. They think, yes, it's my team. We're gonna win. We're gonna have that pigskin balloon the most, and we're gonna run it across that line more times than the other guy's gonna run it across that line. Yeah, what a fun thing. But for me, the only thing that I really ever enjoyed about the Super Bowl was the good commercials. Because the Super Bowl seems to be where the real exciting, inspirational, really focused imagination comes to light in television commercials. Nobody likes television commercials, but somehow the ones in Super Bowl tend to have a bit of inspiration to people. Because probably when they have to pay how many bazillions of dollars to get, 30 seconds, they figure, well, if we're going to spend that much money, we're going to make it good. So to me, the real Super Bowl is probably a good homemade stew. Madam Topic Master.
Thank you. I was just thinking, what was my favorite food? Most of you already know that I don't eat, I stopped eating meat some time ago, for the second time or so. I grew up vegetarian. So, but I was looking forward to Super Bowl, not so much for the game, because none of my team, well, I'm a Saints fan, but the Saints were not playing. But I was like, I cannot wait to eat me some chicken wings. I had already in my mind, I'm going back to flesh. I got to, I have to, it's required for the Super Bowl. So, now only I eat chicken wings, I know, yesterday. But I started early, my birthday was Thursday, so I had chicken wings on Thursday, and I had some Saturday, and I had some again yesterday. So, that's what I was looking forward to for the Super Bowl. And Joe, what is your favorite Super Bowl party food? Come on.
What is my favorite Super Bowl or party food?
And why?
And why? Man. I'll just go with chicken wings. I like chicken wings. They're easy. You can cook them however you want. They're finger food for the most part. Just like a grilled chicken wing. Everybody makes them different with buffalo sauce. You can dip them in ranch, put barbecue sauce on them. It's just an all-around easy, cheap snack, really. So about $10 for a platter of them, but it's just easy and fast. That's why I like chicken wings.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if I agree with that cheap though. I tell you what.
We bought a little thing. It was $10. A
What,
grill.
for a 6 piece?
They're like 20 of them.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I
You gotta go with Breeders.
Yeah, I guess so. Do you have time for that? What are you doing? Let me just do this. Let me do it. No. Let me do this.
What you're doing is you're leaning on this end of it and it picks the back up. So try to be careful of that. And so I'm supposed to lean on it.
Give me this.
I guess if I was evaluator, I could say that in your evaluation that you lean on the lectern. That's
We have
not
time for.
what you're supposed to do.
Oh no, it's past time, it's past the end.
Okay. All right. So I will turn this back over to our Toastmaster.
You can't blame the lectern falling on a salesman.
Okay.
So great table topics, interesting. Now we'll move on to our evaluation section of the meeting. And we start with you, Maurice, or?
It's Olivia.
We go to
Olivia,
you.
doing my general
Yeah.
I'm
evaluation.
doing everything.
Okay, so I will, do I call up the other evaluators first? Or do I?
Well, you can go up and,
Well, you could give your, you can give the
you go up and
speech
introduce
evaluation
yourself
and then do the,
Okay.
yeah.
Speech general evaluation, then speech, or speech in general.
Well, you could do the general evaluation anytime you want, but do the speech evaluation before you get the timer's report and all that stuff.
yeah.
Okay. Well, this one is easy. Oh, thank you. So I have the honor to evaluate Mr. Lawrence's speech on roadways. And I know I'm supposed to write down all sorts of things because no one's perfect other than Christ himself. So for those of us that believe that. So I wish I could say something that you could do better, but I'm just going to tell you what you excelled at. Number one, I always admire your vocal variety. Sometimes I come in here and I'm a little tired, a long day or beginning of the week blues, but your voice wakes me right up. It's strong, it's not over the top, it's not like you're loud, but it's just the presence is there, the way you move around. But the thing that I like the most about your speeches is your comfort level. You just sink right into it. And the expression on your face. No matter what the speech is about, how others would be like, okay, what is it about? For example, a roadway. You just make it real interesting. So I too love the back roads, and most people don't like to travel with me because I'm always looking for a back road to take versus the interstate, because I like to look at the country roads as well. I don't know about 100 miles between gas stations. I always have to steer running out of gas. I don't care if it is getting full, I still got to go run out of gas. No, where's the gas station? Where's the gas station? You may want to work on, I just don't know. I don't know. Maybe you can help me tell me what you should work on. I just don't know. I mean, again, this was an impromptu speech, a pocket speech. So I can't say that you looked at your notes or you didn't use proper tone or moving around or facial expressions or hands. I just really can't say that. To challenge yourself, I would just say keep doing speeches. For clarity, spoken language and exemplary is the best. I'm being told that that's like you have no room for growth. So I'm going to say your spoken language is clear and easily understood. I did hear you say anyways instead of anyway. I don't know if that's proper. Anyways versus anyway. So it was clear and easily understood. Vocal variety, give you a 4 on that one, which means you excel. Use tone, speed, and volume as tools. Eye contact, I had to give you a 5. I mean, I don't know how much more looking around you can do. I mean, you actually spent time. You almost had like a little mini relationship with all of us. So you spent time looking at everyone to almost make you feel like you're talking to no one but that person. So I could not help but give you exemplary on that one. Gestures, use physical gestures effectively. I gave you a 4. Audience awareness, demonstrates awareness of audience engagement and needs. I also gave you a 4 on that one because it just seems like if you were not interested, you would have to have, I mean, because you painted such a pretty picture of what traveling should be like in an RV and moving a little slower and watching for your environment around you. Appears comfortable with the audience. I just can't see it getting any better, so that's a 5. And engages audience with interesting, well-constructed content. Also, I gave you a 4 for that one. And I just think your speech was awesome. Thank you for all that you do. I'll finish filling this out and I'll give it to you.
Okay, thank you.
So for our general evaluation, I think despite the fact that we had to take really 2 5-minute recesses, so we did start 10 minutes late. We were scrambling, trying to get the roles. But I think we are compensating for it pretty well. A lot of the members are out sick, so we spent a little time, talking about those that were sick and people that were out. So it kind of threw us off time a little bit. But so far, the meeting is going very well. I think we made the best of what we had to work with. And at this time, we're going to have the rest of our evaluation. So, Maurice, you have the off counter, the timer.
Yes, and the grammarian.
The grammarian and the word of the day.
Yes, word of the day. I heard it once from Lawrence.
Right.
I know I heard it from prior to you getting up. I don't remember exactly.
Well, he said it twice before getting up, but I thought he was just putting it in memory. So I didn't write that down. I wrote down just the one time he said it formally or officially.
Yeah,
That would be right.
so whether it was appropriate time or not, I heard it from Lawrence. I didn't hear it from myself or anyone else. And as far as filler words, I did not really pay strict attention as much as I should have on that. So I'll go on to the timer's report. Lawrence, I started the time about approximately a minute late, so I ended my watch at 5 minutes, so I'll just say 6 minutes for Lawrence's speech. For table topics, myself was 1 minute and 4 seconds, Cedric 27 seconds, Ben 32 seconds, Lawrence 2 minutes and 14 seconds, Joe 35 seconds, and then Olivia's evaluation of Lawrence's speech was 3 minutes and 19 seconds, so that is the timer's report.
Okay. What was that? We got the grammarian, timer, and
And
all
all
counter,
counters.
and the use of the word of the day.
Yes.
I think that is it for my general evaluation. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you for all the evaluations and speakers. Do we have an education overview?
No, we don't.
I can give something if you want me to.
Mhm.
As always, I can do whatever needs to be done.
Okay, since you brought that up, let me see.
Give me what you want me to talk. I should have. What was I down for on my moments of truth?
Membership orientation.
Membership orientation.
Now, do you want the sheet?
Yes, let me do the membership orientation. Good evening. As you might have noticed in the past couple of meetings, we've been trying to do what they call the moments of truth. Now, the moments of truth, as you probably have heard, are basically tidbits of time when a Toastmaster is going to get involved with this club, or when a person is going to get involved with Toastmasters. And the reason they call it moments of truth is because the minute that someone walks in that door, they get an impression of what is a Toastmasters Club, what is a Toastmasters meeting, and what is Toastmasters in general. So that's why they go through and they tell you, well, what is that moment of first impression? What is that moment of membership orientation? And that is what I'm going to speak about this evening. Membership orientation. Now, when a member first comes in, how they are greeted, how they are put in their seat, and so on, is going to give them a certain impression about Toastmasters. And that's going to be probably the most critical moment of truth. Because if someone walks in that door and doesn't feel comfortable, they're not coming back. But once we get them back, now we have another moment when we can impress them and give them a true feeling of the purpose of Toastmasters. So, that's what they call membership orientation. Somebody decides to become a member. Now, generally, in most clubs, they have an official orientation, which is something I think that this club has been a little bit slack on recently. But basically what they like to do is they like to have a formal introduction where they can bring that person up. They can introduce them to the crowd. They can give them a Toastmasters pin so that he feels like he really is a part of Toastmasters. He gets up, he makes a pledge to work with the other Toastmasters and try to improve himself. It's not a pledge to the club, really. It's a pledge to himself. But in that orientation, there is also a point when the club makes a commitment to that member. They make a pledge to that member. We are here to support you in your goals. And if it's done correctly, that person is going to feel like they have joined something that's going to bring value to their lives. That is a moment of truth. Okay, then the Vice President of Education is supposed to give them a mentor. Or someone is going to volunteer to be their mentor. Now, One of the things in my life that I have found to be the most valuable is when I had an opportunity to learn something with someone who already knew it. Unfortunately, in my past life, I did have some issues with that. When I was a teenager, I worked with an 86-year-old blacksmith. I could have learned so much from that guy. He wanted to teach me everything about how to make decorative wrought iron work, which, back in the 70s was, a little 5-foot section of decorative wrought iron work was selling for close to $1,000, which was big money back then. So it could have been a very lucrative thing to learn, even if I never used it. It would have been so much more valuable if I was able to take that mentorship and use it. So having a mentor is a very valuable thing. Another thing is that when a Toastmaster joins, we should have some form of a questionnaire. Because we're here for different reasons. Somebody might be here because they want to improve their professional appearance through communication. Another person might be here just because he likes the idea of having a social environment where people just get together and have a good talk and experience good things, and also maybe a little bit of self-development in there. Other people may want to become a professional speaker or have to give presentations all the time in their work. So they want to be more professional in their presentation. Each one of us has different goals, and there's no way that other people in the club can know what those goals are unless they are stated in some way. So another moment of truth, the opportunity to present your goals in Toastmasters. And me personally, I think that in some ways that would be a better icebreaker than just saying, hey, I'm Joe Schmo from Pocomo, and I like to sing and dance. So it is another moment of truth. All right, and then another strong moment of truth is the first time that person gets up here behind the lectern. Because when your first time that you're up here, for some people that could be the most scary moment of their lives. As some people say, if you go to a funeral, the people would rather be in the box than the guy who's behind the lectern talking about the guy who's in the box. So to get behind the lectern takes a courage. And it is valuable for us to support new members. It's a very important moment in their life. The first time they get up there. And they make mistakes. And I guarantee you, if you've never been behind a podium, or behind a lectern, on a podium or behind a lectern, when you get up there the first time, you are seeing every single possible mistake that you perceive yourself doing. The people in the audience probably don't see even close to as many mistakes as I will see in myself when I get behind a lectern. And when I was taking speech therapy, or speech lessons, that was one of the things that they tried to impress. In the theater, if you make a mistake, just keep going, because you're probably the only one that knows you made a mistake. The audience doesn't know that you weren't supposed to say that, or you were supposed to say it in a different way. You notice it, but they won't. So it's a scary thing. So we have to support those members when they come up. That is a moment of truth. And then we can't ignore the people who are already here. It's a very easy habit. Oh, he's been here 10 times. He's one of the club. We don't have to do anything for him anymore. Right? No. We have to continually support each other. We have to continually lift each other up. So, my fellow Toastmasters, moments of truth. Every moment is a moment of truth. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for the education overview. We don't have anything else. I will turn it over to our acting president.
They'll turn it back over. So it's right side up again.
Thank you.
Any volunteers for next week as far as roles? I think I'm scheduled to do a speech and someone else is scheduled to do a speech according to the calendar. Oh, Peter, if he, well, wrote his name down.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be here next week because there's so many things going on now. Life is changing every minute, so.
So you have the opportunity to be reserve speaker.
Yeah.
So what I'll do, I'll just assign roles on Easy Speak for those who would be here.
I'll do the general evaluation again.
Yeah. Just keep doing it, perfect it, right?
Yes.
It's away. Ding. Oh, Heather said hello.
So if nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Now, I'll get you an application, is that what you wanted?
Yes, please.
Why, I thought you already remember.
And I brought a check, so whatever amount, I can just put it.
Well, all right, Mr. Cedric, I see you came back for the second time. Okay, well, welcome. We're glad to have you. And Joe, this was your first time meeting Toastmasters?
It was.
I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
I think you should do it again.
How's it going? I'm Ben.
Safely?
Nice to meet you, Cedric.
I don't know if I'll be here. They laid off 40 people at our company, so now they're magnifying glass
I'm a nice lady.
out there.
Yeah, and we know what that makes me angry. You let go of everybody, now you want to.
Yeah.
You'll call this
They
pressure
go
on me.
40 people and they're deciding my future with the company is what they said.
Are you serious?
We'll find out.
Hey, it's one of those things.
Yeah, I just got accepted to engineering school, so I'll just get back on the boat faculty.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you were working on a boat?
I was a deckhand on a charter boat.
Charter boat?
Mm-hmm.
Where out of?
Dalton Island.
Oh, out of Dalton Island. Which one?
The Escape. About
Oh,
Escape
okay.
series.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Easy way to make money during the summer.
I'm a boat captain by trade.
I almost got my captain's license.
Well, now
I went to college and took that route
This is the
instead.
Hey, but you know,
the person
the opportunity's always still there.
Yep.
It's one of those things that, you know, if you know, one of the things I found in my
next week.
long and varied career is that, you know, anything you learn,
Be here next week or whatever week.
and you never know where it's
Okay.
going to lead,
We'll
because
do that then.
the things that you start out doing
Cedric, by the way, you're.
might not be what you finish doing.
No.
And you,
Yes.
actually, I had one of the instructors I had
Okay.
taught me. Actually, he taught celestial navigation, but he was a
Have a good night, everybody. Have a good
had an
night.
MBA in something. I don't remember what it was.
Mhm.
But he was working in an office, and he hated